This is why I say embrace every single part of who you are and stand in your truth as fervently as much as you can, because me embracing both sides of who I am have allotted me so many opportunities personally, professionally, but has also offered me and allotted me so many opportunities to inspire others. I'm the first Mexican American solo female to have her clothes hanging in the Grammy Museum.
Hey, everybody, welcome to yet again the Abundant Mind podcast. I am so grateful for you. I pray for you guys every single day. I think about you every day. Our mission here at the Abundant Mind is to be able to put in front of you people who are of influence, people who have created some incredible things in their personal lives and in the world. We have from celebrities to to incredible business owners. I love what I get to do. I love this podcast, and I have been so excited to have this incredible lady on. She is a country music star. She is a believer of Christ. She is moving mountains. And there is a wake of beauty that she's leaving behind. We've got with you guys, Miss Leah Turner. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here and to be a part of the message and to be a part of the road. I love how you said leave a wake. Because when you start down something, let's just say we're on the water, because that's where the wake comes. People feel that when you move through, and I think that's something that we're setting out to do.
Yeah, that is so absolutely incredible, right? So before the podcast, a few weeks, kind of leading into it, I'll ask a lot of our listeners. I say, hey, I've got so and so coming on the podcast. I got so and so coming on. Like, what would you like to ask? Like, if you could actually do an interview, right? Like, what would you like to know? I have 76 questions. I have 76 questions that people want to ask Leah Turner, and we're not going to be able to get
rapid fire.
We're not going to be able to get to 76, but I do have a lot, So for me, again, I love your Mexican American heritage. I love that you live your culture. I love. I mean, you have such. I mean, your voice is your voice is gorgeous, and you can see in your videos, you can see in your music that you live your heritage. So one of the first questions that I asked, that several people had asked, was, so Miss Leah, how has your Mexican American heritage influenced your music and storytelling as a country artist? So that's question one.
Yeah.
The second question is, as a Mexican American with your heritage, how has that and your faith influenced your music and your storytelling as a country artist?
The way that it's influenced my music is you can't deny what God has put in you, correct? It's just who I am. It's literally just who I am. And there was a time in my career where I was told to only embrace the cowgirl, which the white side of who I am, because, I can hide that I'm Mexicana. And then when you really step into the full purpose and you really step into the fullness of who God has made you, that's when I think the waters break open. I was able to have the opportunity, and I would say this is not very Christian, but maybe the cajones de pelotas to the fight to be able to say, you know what, I have to be exactly who God made me. And that is embracing both sides of who I am. So that's how it influences as far as like a personal and spiritual level. But musically, it influences by really bringing in, like tola loche, which is like upright bass, bringing in classical guitar, 12 string, going back and forth from English to Spanish, really embracing the skin that God gave me, and embracing everything and just standing in the truth of who I am. And so I think that encompasses one answer for both those questions of just really standing in your truth, knowing who you are in Christ, and you will be amazed by how the doors open.
So a lot of people, I mean, we live, and this is not new. We live in a place where it's like it's so taboo to talk about your faith, right? So and to live your faith. So you could absolutely have an incredible career never talking about God or Christ. So why do you choose to live your faith, right? Right. I mean, some people would say, man, what if I alienate somebody? What if, you guys, you can't step without someone, finding blame or finding something that from the shoes you wear, the socks you wear, to the makeup, to whatever, to, people are always going to be offended, but living your faith is going to bring you so much joy. So why are you so determined to be able to do that? Because as a lot of people would say, well, I mean, wow, what if, but what if you don't do that? Right. So why are you so founded? Was there a moment in your life that you decided that I'm going to allow people to understand who I really am? Like the skin God gave you, but also who you are as a daughter of God. Like why live that? Was there an experience that led you get to this point, or anything like that?
I have just seen, I always say that I walk like street adjacent. And when I mean street adjacent, I mean like I've always been a bridled rebellion. Like my mom's rebellious, my dad's rebellious, and in that rebellion, it can be either good or it can be bad, right? And without the foundation of Christ, I don't know where I would be, because I am fearless and I am like, I'll do it. Let's try it out. Let's push some boundaries. You better get comfortable being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
that can be good and that can be bad, right? So without the tether of Christ, and without the tether of a solid foundation, you're going to crumble and find yourself in places that you probably don't want to be. I was blessed to be able to be raised in a Christian home. My family has always been, my dad was an associate pastor. My dad was, a deacon. My mom was a deaconess in all of the churches that we've ever been in. Um, but what I love about what they did is they allowed me to be able to test some boundaries, but I always knew I had that bridle in my mouth. Like I always knew that I was like, oh, that's too far. That's too far. And so I want people to understand that it is okay to push boundaries. You're going to mess up. You're going to do things that probably don't align with Christ all the time. You're going to kind of be like, oh, probably shouldn't have done that. But here's the beauty of it. And this is not the turning point, but what has always kept me here. The beauty of it is you come back with a heart of openness and a heart of like, wow, I really messed up and I really need you to change. And those open arms that are always there, that has always been the point of knowing there's nothing that I can do. I mean, there are some things, but there's nothing that I can really do to where Christ does not accept me back. And for me, that has always been a place of like, there's always home. There's always a foundation. And so that's why it's so important to me, because I think a lot of people feel we serve this wrathful God that's just going to come down with this fist of thunder and wipe
Right.
you out, and you're just done with. And he will flip the tables over and he will kick your butt. Tough love is love.
That's right.
But he will also always take you back and always dust you off, put you back on your feet and say, let's try again. And so for me, I want people that don't necessarily have had the foundation that I've had be able to know you can always come home. There'll be consequences, but you're going to always come home, and then we'll do it and we'll work through it and we'll be better together.
Man, I love that. And that is absolutely right. I had a guest on a podcast, and he said something that was that just that I loved it. We always hear, you see the wristbands of, WWJD, what would Jesus do? And he
Yeah.
says he's created something, and it's WWJT. Where was Jesus today? And
Right.
and it's like in seeking him, right? You can still live your faith and still seek Christ in everything that you do. I absolutely love it. And you are always welcome home. I love that.
Yeah.
We had during the 4th of July this year, we were blasting some of your music. We were having so much fun, and I was like, this lady has such an incredible voice. And and we hear this in anything, and whenever we want to venture out, into a business, as a chiropractor, people would say, oh man, you can't go practice down there, there's too many chiropractors. Oh, you can't go here, there's too much. Well, what are some of the things that you have that you have done that has allowed you to get out there? So in creating music, what are some of the first steps? Because we have a lot of people that say, like, hey, I have a voice. It might be a podcast or might be this. What are some of the steps that you would recommend that people take to be able to get their voice heard? What have you done in your journey to get to where you are today?
Yeah. It is a definitely a wild road. That's why I was so grateful that I was raised on rodeo because once you get bucked off, you got to get right back in so that fear doesn't set in, you know?
Right.
If you allow the fear to set in, you become paralyzed and then you don't move and then you become stagnant and then you rot. And so for me, it's really having thick skin, believing and never taking no for an answer and honing that craft that you have. But for an everyday thing, I would say sign up for a PRO, which is either ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. Take any opportunity, walk through any door, and if a door that you want to be in closes, find yourself a window and get in through that window. You know what I mean? Always show up on time, always show up with an idea, always show up with an open and learning heart. That's not correct English, but like a heart that's willing to learn. Um,
Yes.
and always be okay with not being the best person in the room, because if you are the best person in the room, you need to get out of another room because you need to get into another room because you have outgrown that room and you need to keep growing. So
That is huge.
there's not like in the music business, there's not like an A, B, C or a one, two, three. You can do all of the steps and still not get through those doors,
Mm,
and you can go from A to D to C to F to G to I to 1 to 5 to 7 to 10 to 12. And you're like, wait a minute, it's a roller coaster. But if you really, and it brings me back to like, if you really stand in your truth, embrace who you are, embrace your differences, because your differences are what make you stand out. And that's what God has given you. He has made you different for a reason, and we're all different. If we lean into those differences, that's what's going to make you stand out. And then that's what's going to capture people's attention.
so I love that you've shared that. So tell me about the times where you've been bucked off. Tell me about the times where you got bucked off and what made you, because again, is it easy to hear that? I mean, I think of the Rocky, right? It's not about how hard you can get hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and get up and move forward. We not hear that 1,000 times a day? And I hope you guys are hearing those things every day. I hope you're surrounding yourself with goodness and greatness. But when it comes to being slapped in your face with trials, and it could be a physical trial, an emotional trial, it could be a death, it could be divorce, it could be, someone saying no, it could be rape. I mean, it could be 1,000 things, right? What you're going to focus on in your life is what you're going to find. If, because I could see 1,000 ways where people could say, you could say, oh, they didn't like me. Oh, they're racist, or they didn't like me because I'm a woman, or they didn't like me because of da da da. But what makes you, when you have been bucked off, right? Or let me just put it this exactly. Tell me about when you have been bucked off
Yeah.
and what truly helped you to have the abundant mind of I'm going to get up and move forward. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I was the quickest signing to Sony Records in 12 years. I had every manager, label, publisher, agency fighting over me here in Tennessee when I first moved here. To say that walked into this town and took it over would be like the exact correct statement to say.
I
Um,
agree.
and within a year, I had a top 30 single. I had toured with Brad Paisley, Rascal Fat. I mean, I played the Greek Theater, the Hollywood Bowl. I played Red Rocks. I mean, everything that you would want to do, you were able to do.
Fast and
And
Furious.
and then I got dropped. And they said, sorry, we're letting you go from Sony. And I was like, what? But I'm working, but like I have a top 30 and this is my first single, and like we have another one coming out, and I'm on the road here and I'm doing this. And that's it doesn't there's not a formula of like A plus B equals C or C squared. Like I'm literally like, but I'm doing all of the things. Well, the president was getting fired and they weren't going to have a president for, I think they said like 26 weeks, which didn't even happen. They didn't even have one for like way longer than that.
Wow.
And they let me go. And
This was what year, Leah?
this was 2015.
Okay, it's
It's almost.
15 now. Okay.
Mhm. So then my publisher at the time, Rusty Gaston, shout out to Rusty. He's incredible, faith-based, just, you know, a champion of songs, a champion of artists, just incredible. He owned Warner Chappell, a thing called This Music that upstreamed through Warner Chappell. And now he's the president of Sony Publishing. Anyway, so, you go, I don't know what to do, And so Rusty at the time said to me, he was like, Leah, I'm not going to leave you, which makes me want to cry. And he didn't leave me. And he said, I think you need to go out and live life a little bit, not live life on the road, not live life like trying to, get back there, go live life a little bit. And of course, I was like, I'm good. I'm fine. Like, I'm gonna get right back in that saddle and we're gonna ride. And so I took a little bit of a moment to grieve it and let it set back in. And then I got back in on that saddle in the time that I was supposed to. I don't recommend taking time, not getting back in the saddle if you get bucked off because fear can set in, but it's something that my heart needed to do. So then I, took a little bit of time. I think it was a week, just a week. And I got back in and I started writing and I started feeling, my own skin without this big label telling me what to do, without this happening. And that's when I really started saying, okay, if I don't embrace both sides of who I am, I'm not going to be being authentic. I'm not going to be being who God made me. And so that's where that little break, that little moment that I took allowed me to reflect, get back in the saddle, and then ride hard. And that's what I've been doing for the last, I would say I've been doing the Latino thing for the last 5 years. But that was one of those moments there.
Wow. So what happened next?
So what happened next is I recorded some songs in
Yeah,
Spanish.
just a few. You recorded
Yeah.
some songs. That's very humble of you.
I recorded some songs in Spanish. This is why I say embrace every single part of who you are and stand in your truth as fervently as much as you can, because me embracing both sides of who I am have allotted me so many opportunities personally, professionally, but has also offered me and allotted me so many opportunities to inspire others. I'm the first Mexican American solo female to have her clothes hanging in the Grammy Museum. I'm the highest, yeah.
I
I'm
didn't
the
know that.
yeah. And that's just a testament to the fight that's
Wow.
been put inside of me from my grandparents being like, I want something better. I want something better. So they fought and they came over for us to have a better life.
Órale, órale.
Órale, right? Esa verdad. So that, and then, I just had a Billboard article come out and it be like, me front and center, which was such a blessing. Because, you always feel like you're going to get left out. Like I always feel like, oh, I'm going to get left out. I'm going to get left out. And God's grace and his mercy and his provision has made me, I don't want to say the head because there's other people, but made me, in my personal word, the head and not the tail. And that's what Christ does. So yeah, I'm the highest charted Latina in country music. My clothes are in the Grammy Museum for the Power of Women of Country exhibit. I have been able to inspire other Latinas, Latinos, Hispanics, Mexicanas, Mexicanos, but in just not making it about race, all it does is say, embrace both sides of who you are, stand in your truth, and lean on Christ and lean on him, and he will make a way.
Bam. Holy cow. I mean, literal mic drop. I mean, so huge congratulations. I mean, so you have worked so hard for this and to be bucked off so hard and aggressively. I mean, a lot of times we don't know why things happen, right? But to be able to listen, and again, you made the right decision for you, right? To see what you've created over the last 6 years as well. To see what you created is nothing short of miraculous. It's so empowering because a lot of people, they don't understand what people have gone through, right? A lot of times we don't understand the journey you've gone through to make things happen, but to embrace, you guys, what Leah just shared is so critical. You need to be who you are. I mean, how many times do we hear about, be authentic, be authentic? Guys, the more I get to do this podcast and I get to talk to world leaders and people of influence, people who literally have it all, and in terms of just financial wealth and prosperity, that's what everyone has shared is you need to be authentic to who you are, because you will not be happy being a chameleon, right? Being who you are not. Embrace who you are, and you will find joy. You'll be able to find that, man, you wake up with an I get to do this instead of I have to do this. I mean, embracing is so fun. So
Yeah.
I got a couple questions for you. So a lot of our people have shared a couple of things. Obviously, with some of the incredible songs that you've written, that you've sung, a lot of people have asked, what is the song you're most proud of? Not not like and some people have asked, what records and this and that, but what are the song that you love the most that speaks to you, and why? Why does it speak to you? And it doesn't have to be your most popular. If it is, great, but if not, we want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a few. One of on my previous EP that was self-titled on Sony is called Beat Up Bronco. And it is, I wrote it with Hillary Lindsay, who has written like, I don't know, from like Carrie Underwood to Jelly Roll to Lady Gaga, Post Malone number ones. She is the most decorated female like songwriter in, she's just incredible. And then Jesse Frazier and Carrie Barlow, who have all the same accolades, like they're just insane. But I had this idea where, love is a very soft thing, and a Bronco is a very like hard thing, right? Like it's made of metal, and it's made of this, and it's made of that. And how many moments do you have inside of a car? Like it's your first kiss, your first get the heck out of here. It's your first argument. It's your first don't leave. It's your first we're going somewhere. We're going to our goal. We're hopping off. We're packing up because we're going to go to another thing. And so we took love and we took this thing made of steel to be able to say, like, I know that like we're going to go through a lot of hard times. I know that we probably are going to have like bumps and bruises and this and that. But just like this beat up Bronco, we're still rolling down that highway and we're together. And so that is one of my most favorite songs to be able to represent and say, like, if you find that ride or die, or you find that person and you have it, like, it ain't going to be easy, but it's worth it in the end when you get to where you're going to go. So
Wow.
that's one of my, most favorite, songs. And then the first one that I wrote, on Lost in Translation, my last EP that came out
Hmm.
is called Vaquera and the Cowboy. And it's
So what is
vaquera,
vaquera
yeah,
for our gringos? What does vaquera mean?
para los gringos. Vaquera is cowgirl in Spanish.
Hmm.
And my dad is a 15-time champion in the rodeo. He's a team roper. He's a real cowboy. And my mom is first generation Mexican American. I'm second. And I had a front seat view of what love really is. My parents got married in a time where you did not marry outside your race.
Oh,
Mexicans didn't marry whites. Whites didn't marry Mexicans. And you have this blonde hair, blue eyed surfer cowboy. That's my father. And then you have this beautiful Mexicana whose whole family is from Mexico. And I wrote about it, and it talks about their love story. And it talks about how if you let vibes be felt, if you let hearts be seen, if you let feelings be heard, nothing can get lost in translation. Because if you're only looking on what's here, then
mm,
what's out on the skin, what's out on the outside, you may not be able to really see what somebody's about. And if you look at someone's heart, good or bad, they will show you who they are.
every
And
time.
every time, every time. So if you look at that heart versus what's on the outside, like I said, nothing can get lost in translation.
Yeah, that is huge. We have we have a saying, so the Hansons give second chances, right? I believe that you should never judge someone by their worst day, but people do show you who they are. Believe them, right? Believe them. And there's going to be a lot of things. I just had this gentleman reach out to me. He's like, "Oh, I'd love to sponsor your podcast and this," but it started with a lie. It started with a major lie. And he said, "Oh, I've been part of your group for X amount of years." And the cool thing with technology is you can look at this and say, "So you joined 6 hours ago." And so I said, "Oh, so do you mean like you've been following us for quite some time?" He's like, "Oh, no, no, I've been part."
Listening.
He's like, "No, I've been part of it, da da da." And so it was like, okay, we all may, whatever. But as I have a great team in the research. I'm like, oh, doc, it's a scam, and here's why. It's a legit business, but they scam, da 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 da. And people show you who they are. Believe them, right? And Christ. I mean, how many? What do these say? Forgive 70 times seven. We should always be willing to forgive, and we can be Christ-like to everybody, but you need to find your who, right? I mean, you've mentioned many who's. Right. I mean, and I love your humility, Leah, because you haven't just said, look, me. You have basically, I mean, you stand on the shoulders of giants, and you're putting incredible people where they deserve to be in the light. Because guys, it's so critical in your life to figure out you need to figure out your why. You need to figure out your what. But man, how incredible is it to figure out your who? Who is your who that can allow you to get out there? A lot of us, if we're red personality, A type personality, we want to do it on our own. And a lot of times, you guys, you don't have the skill set to get you there. You can have linear growth in your life, but you will never have exponential growth or exponential success in finding that who. And I love your humility with that. And I love, what you share, that you had a front row seat to love. That love is soft. The Bronco is hard and steel, but to be able to find that balance, absolutely beautiful. I love that.
And I think you're also sometimes, people feel like, and I know that I struggle with this because you've been hurt so many times, or you've been let down so many times, or, someone hasn't shown up for you. And people really struggle with being vulnerable because vulnerability is seen as weakness. But in reality, being vulnerable is the most rad. I would say something else, but we have a very Christian base. Um, but listen, I'm a cussing Christian, okay? I
That's
love
right.
the Lord, but sometimes, but it is the most being vulnerable is the strongest thing that you can do to be able to say, listen, I don't got this. And I mean, obviously, make sure that I don't got this is said to the right people. But if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to be surrounded by the right people. And even if you're not, God still got you, But it may be a little bit of a harder, I ain't got this, but it's okay to say, I don't have this. Being vulnerable is the most dope thing that you can do. And you're only as good as the team that surrounds you. And that doesn't even just mean in the music business. That's like, I mean, doctor, if you have, a front desk person who's rude to everyone, and then you have chiropractors who really don't do this correctly, or they don't crack them correctly. This is not the right terminology, but they don't. And so then they always are like, well, that doctor doesn't get me back in alignment. So then they're not going to come back. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if you're surrounded, even if you say you work at Walmart, right? And you're the manager of Walmart, and you have a sales associate and a cashier and the bathroom person, and they're all, not very nice to everyone. No one's good. You're going to be complained about. No one's going to want to come to that Walmart, and then you're not doing your job. So whatever walk of life that you're in, whatever job title that you're in, whatever it is, even if you're you clean the bathrooms, and if you're kind to that person that walks in, like, they're going to remember that. They're going to be like, what, that bath attendant was really rad. Like, I think possibly, you know what I'm saying? So you're only
Yes.
good at the team that surrounds you. Be true to who you are and be
Yes.
kind, and constantly just know that it's going to be hard and it's going to suck, but being vulnerable is the number one thing to do, because you're only as good as the people that surround you, and asking for help is not a weakness, and a good leader knows how to follow.
Yes.
A good
You,
leader knows how to follow.
I'll never forget. I had an attorney that wanted our business, and he took us. There's a place called Perry Steakhouse here in Colorado. I mean, in Colorado, we got some ritzy places. We had some ritzy places where a steak's $1,000. A
Yep.
side order of buttered carrots is like $200. Like, it was
I'm
one of
like,
those places, right? I mean,
do these have gold
outrageous.
in them? Do they have gold? If
Eh,
they
th-
have gold in them, I'm taking them home. I'm not eating them.
So they literally had the gold plate, like the gold leaf stuff, like they put gold leaf on your steak, and people show you who they are, right. And so he was a jerk to the person walking, the person who greeted us, the host, our the waiter. He couldn't do enough. He said, I don't want you in front of me, give me someone else. I want a female. I asked for a female to begin with. I mean, and I was like, who? I'm looking at my associate. I'm like, who is this guy?
Right.
And it took everything. And I said, you know what? I want to be Christ. Like I want to be kind. I don't want an avalanche of evil to hit me afterwards. So we sat with the guy, we talked. And then literally, but I thought, man, never in a million years, but by watching how he treated other people, right? Guys, how do you treat the bathroom attendants, right? How do you treat the bathroom attendant? Are you loving and kind to them? Could they look at you and say, wow, I want to figure out who this person really is. I want to know Jesus because I just met that person, right? In our practice, in our businesses, we hire off of our core values because
Right.
I want people to be able to live their faith in our practice. I want people to be able to express the love and the joy that they have for God in their
Right.
life in our business, and that they can feel
Right.
comfortable doing that. So surround yourself with people who, when you walk into a room, they light up because you walked in the room.
Right.
You have a board of advisors that are your cheerleaders, that people who truly want you to have success.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that. So
Yeah.
as we get to a closing here, I have a couple questions that I would love to kind of wrap into one major thing.
Sure.
When we hear Leah Turner, it's you light people up. You get excited. What has been one of the things that, so out of everything you've ever done in your life, from your most popular songs to brands to maybe some other entrepreneurial things, but what are you truly most proud of for what you have created and what's out there, and why?
Yeah. I think what I'm most truly proud of is that my character is shown. And even
Wow.
even when people possibly don't like me, they don't like me because I stood for something and I made them uncomfortable. So my character, that I always keep my side of the street clean. I always want to see you eat, and I will always love you, but I will love you from afar because I will not be drained by you. So that, to me, going through all the ups and downs, all the ins and outs, sitting with people of the caliber of like Jeremy Renner and David Foster and touring with Brad Paisley and doing all of these, ups and downs, I've maintained always do the right thing when it's hard, because sometimes the right thing is really hard to do. But I can sleep at night and I can say, you know what? I glorified the foundation that was instilled in me by my parents through Christ. And nobody can ever say that, like, oh, Leah did me wrong. They can say, like, oh, she put me in my place. They can say, oh, blah, 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 blah. Or they can say, she'll have your back no matter what. That fabric that goes through that same fabric is that I was who I am, and maintain character in both of those.
Guys, did you hear that? She didn't talk about accolades, awards, financial gain. You talked about your character. Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
It always made me want to
That's
cry.
Did you guys hear that? I talked to countless people. So one of the coolest things that we get from this podcast is we get what's called fan mail. And we'll get thousands, hundreds of messages. And some of them, and you have to take people where they are, right? So people who are just in absolute poverty, that they're looking to, where am I going to get my next meal, right? And they say it's easy for someone like Leah, or it's easy for someone like Gary LeVox. It's easy for Brad Paisley. It's easy because they've got it. But what did they say? You know what? Brad Paisley was not always on top. Brad. I mean, he's married, right? He's lived his faith, but he's had his trials. If you guys, and Brad Paisley is an incredible guy, but everyone who's on the top hasn't always stayed on the top. They've had their misfortunes. But what have they
Right.
always shared? It's exactly what you just did. I'm most proud of my character. I'm most proud that I could stand. So if I were to die today, I could stand before the Lord and say, I told you you could count on Leah. I told you you could count on me. Did you feel you could do that? You did? Oh, praise the Lord. Amen. Thank
Yeah.
you. How incredible is that?
Really
Leah,
grateful to be allotted those opportunities. And a lot of times people, I know we have to wrap up here, but a lot of times people aren't going to show up for you like you show up for them, and you have the decision to be able to, like I said, love them from afar. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to not want to see them eat, but just
I
not,
love that. That's true.
you don't, but you can just kind of separate yourself because, you don't have to constantly be around them. But if you show up, your tribe will find you. And then they will show
Mm.
up and just a real quick story, like my best friend, producer, I have this microphone that was given for this not for this podcast, but because doing a bunch of podcasts and whatever. And so last night we were supposed to edit our video and do all of this, and it got really late. And he was like, I'll come in over in the morning. I'll come over in the morning and I will set it up for you. And I was like, okay. So a lot of times people don't show up for you. Like I'm the one that always shows up. I'm the one that always is like, all right, I said I'd do it, I'll do it, I'll do it. And don't get weary, and it makes me want to cry. Don't get weary in doing good because the right people will show up for you.
Wow.
This morning, I was shown up for. You know what I mean? Because I didn't get weary in doing good.
You will never, ever, 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 ever regret doing good. You will never regret it.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I was 15 years old. It was a Saturday. I had a baseball game. My parents all were always there. And afterwards, it meant in the house and the household, we worked. And in our church, we had a lot of widows, lots of widows. And so my dad was always known as the server of the widows. And this tree had fallen down in a lady in our church's yard, huge tree. And she was super poor. She couldn't run any, she had a home that was all paid for, from her husband who'd passed away. And my
Right.
dad told me, he's like, listen, her tree fell down. We got to go cut this thing up for her. But also, we need to remove it. We need to help try to repair her home. But she's going to use this for firewood. And
Right.
part of my heart was like, yeah, she needs help. She needs help. But
Right.
part of me was like, are you kidding me, Dad? Like, I want to go play now. I want to do my thing. I want to go with my buddies. And I'll never forget going and serving this sweet lady. We were there. Chainsaws going, sawdust everywhere. And we were able to, get the tree cut up, put it so that she could have, firewood for the year. And I'll never
Wow.
forget, she came outside with a cup about this big and a cup about this big it turned out it was pure lemon juice. So she goes, I made you some lemonade. She goes, I had some lemons and I made you some lemonade, and it was pure lemon juice. And I'll tell you,
Oh.
Leah, it never tasted so sweet,
Right.
because when I
Her.
went to her home to use her restroom, that's all she had was lemons. She didn't have anything else. She only had lemons. She had a box of lemons that someone had gifted her, and she decided to use a dozen or two of them to make us lemonade. And then she came to me and she said, I want you to have this. I want you to put this towards your mission in life, towards serving God. And she put in my hand a crinkled up $5 bill, which I have framed still. I have framed the $5 bill. And I said, oh, I said, no, please, please, please. My dad looks at me and gives me one nod. And he said, so I don't know if you're familiar with in the Bible about the story about the widow and the widow's mite.
Yes.
So there's the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and they're each sitting, and I picture them like today with their Rolexes, and they're throwing money into the collection plate. Like, look, 1,000, making it rain, baby, right? Making it rain. But she gave all she had. So if you guys look at a mite, it's don't quote me on it, but a mite today is worth like 1/1000th of a penny or something like that, right? It's all she had. Well, she gave me this, and that's all she had. And my dad said, so afterwards he goes, I'm so happy you didn't rob her of that blessing to be able to give. You guys, never ever be weary in doing good. This is what you're going to hear as you study and follow and listen to the greats. That is what the message that they are going to share. The people who are truly happy, they're most proud about their character, because when it all comes down to it, no matter who we are all going to stand at the feet of Jesus Christ. And I cannot wait to bathe his feet with my tears, but to be able to say, you could count on Jake Hansen, you could count on Leah Turner. Guys, step up, stand out, live your faith, live who you are. Live what you believe, and you will find joy and happiness. You will find your why will become clear, your what and your who, and absolutely everything will be able to happen to you, and the abundance of blessings in all aspects will be able to hit you in your life. Leah, you guys look up Miss Leah. You have some incredible things coming out. I mean, coming out. So we're going to have several links down here below. Love her, support her. You have some incredible endeavors coming out. So we can't wait to keep watching your career and where you're going. And we've got your back in every sense of the word. Thank you so much for giving your time and your love to be on the show today. We love and appreciate you, Leah. Thank you.
Love and appreciate you. Thank you very much.